everyone, welcome back to How We Felt About. I am, again, Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And Eric and I are going to talk about 3 more movies, or rather, we're going to talk about 1 movie, and then I'm going to talk about 2 more things briefly that are requests from Patreon. So, Eric, this was practically a Made Me Watch, but we're not doing this as...
Well, it happened by accident.
It happened by accident, and we have a Made Me Watch this week already. So.
What happens is, we have 2 of them. What happens is, I think Predator's coming out on Thursday, and I've been meaning to rewatch Predator 2.
We even announced it on the live show. We were like, we're going to talk, and nobody corrected us. We were like, we're going to talk about the new Predator movie on Sunday. Yeah, no, we're not, because it's not out for 2 weeks.
I don't think people even know that movie's coming out.
Yeah.
So I wanted to rewatch Predator 2. I rewatched Predator 1 a couple weeks ago. I was like, hey, I'm going to be home early this day. I'm just going to watch Predator 2.
Because you thought I was busy. You thought I was going to be doing a commentary.
I thought you were doing 89. So I was like, okay, well I'll just watch Predator 2 in my room. And Cap was like, well, we can just project it and we'll watch together. I wanted to watch it before we saw the new one. I was like, okay, you're in for a wild ride. I think was my exact words. She's like, you're in for a wild ride. So we watched Predator 2. So it's kind of made me watch, but I didn't do it on purpose. You were just like, I want to watch that too.
No, I was curious.
Yeah.
And I had that time open, so
yeah,
let's watch it. So I had always heard that Predator 2 was crazy and not tonally very much like the first movie at all, and then it kind of runs off the rails, and they went the wrong direction with it, and then that probably had something to do with why they didn't make it anymore.
Mm-hmm. It also didn't do well financially and was very poorly reviewed.
It's not conventionally good. This movie is not about a lot.
If anything.
It is action scene after action scene after action scene. It's a comic book. It's a cartoon. It has all kinds of things where I'm not sure why they're happening. It's insanely counterintuitive. I loved it.
It's great.
I really, really liked this movie.
It's really fun.
I thought, and I feel bad because, or rather, I feel like I'm going against the grain. And, I
think this movie's become like a cult film. I think people like Predator 2.
Because I feel like I'm not supposed to like this movie, but I really did. And I left it saying to you, I might rather rewatch this than the original. And I know that's blasphemy, but I really enjoyed this.
We were driving around the other day, and I just kept saying things to Capra. I was like, hey, you remember that part where the Predator gets struck by lightning and nothing happens? Hey, you remember the part where he throws his blade through meat and then cuts a guy's legs off and they fall, but his torso stays up?
That's my favorite scene. And I'd like to talk about it now.
You wouldn't stop laughing. Like Cap lost it at this scene.
We spent the first half an hour not saying a lot. We were just kind of watching this movie.
I was in a weird mood.
Yeah, and it turned into the kind of viewing experience that it probably should have been the whole time, where we just could not stop pointing and laughing. So the Predators have this, and this is of course from the first one too. I
was in a weird mood, and you were getting your bearings on what this movie was, because the opening scene is like a half hour of just cops shooting at a gang war.
Yeah, I didn't even know what was going on. And at one point I asked Eric, so what's this gang war about? And he's like, it's a gang war. And I was like, okay.
There's a voodoo gang, and it's 1997, even though this movie came out in 1990.
Yeah. Once again, most counterintuitive choices. Why would you do it like that?
It's not futuristic.
There's some nondescript. For the most part, it's not. Like, the most futuristic thing is, look, really bright lights.
And there's a voodoo gang war happening in LA for some reason.
Yeah, I guess they felt like they had to set it ahead a little bit from that time period. Just, well, we know this kind of crap's not happening right now, but, like, just make it a nondescript future and just have it be the heightened crazy movie you're making. Like, why do you have to pretend like it's still, remotely realistic or recognizable world?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so meat.
Yeah.
So the Predators have these helmets, as I'm sure everyone knows, that allow them to look at things through various. They gives them various kinds of information, and there's layers of it. So like they can look at like.
Well, we learned in this one they see in infrared with their eyes.
Like their actual eyes? Or
yeah, they see in infrared.
Oh, see, I thought they had to put on like the infrared channel.
No, he does like the thing where he channels through his infrared vision in like different spectrums.
I thought it was different spectrums. See, the way I was looking at it, I thought the idea was he could look through different modes, so like he could see heat, or he could see infrared, or he could.
That's how I always took it. But I'm pretty sure that they say he sees in infrared.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that.
But anyways,
It's not important.
You also missed the entire connection, like the first film, what Gary Busey was doing in this movie, because you were laughing. I think that's the scene that follows the meat scene.
Well, then they should not have put exposition right after that scene. And maybe I'm the only person that thinks this is funny, but I think it's really funny. Because the Predator is a total show-off, okay? I enjoyed the Predator in this the same way I enjoyed Godzilla in Godzilla vs. Mothra. Because he's so sarcastic, and I was just waiting for the eyebrow thing, right?
Want some candy?
They're in a meat packing plant, and there's these rows of banging meat, and he stands on one side of it, and he can see the guy on the other side. And is it Danny Glover when he jumps out of the way, or is it somebody else?
No, it's Gary. This is how Gary Busey dies.
Oh, this is how Busey died. Okay.
Yeah.
So I couldn't remember who it was on the other side. I was laughing too hard. So, and I don't care about any of the characters in this except for Angry Danny Glover, because Angry Danny Glover is the best. I never got tired of him being angry. I did not find him unsympathetic.
And he never stopped being
mostly
angry.
because there aren't human beings in this movie, so how could they be sympathetic or unsympathetic? So he's on the other side of the meat, and he's able to, with his infrared or his heat-seeking or whatever it is, vision in his helmet, see Gary Busey on the other side of 6 things of meat. And instead of, like you might expect, just very quickly running to the other side and shooting the guy, because he doesn't know the Predator's right there, and he wouldn't have time to react, he just shows off with how amazing his weaponry is, and he fires all the way through all 6 pieces of meat and blows the guy up!
He throws like a bladed weapon.
That's
like,
what it is! He throws a weapon!
Yeah, it's like, what was it, Crawl? The movie with the like 5-starred like knife thing.
Yes,
it's kind of like that, but not like that at all. It's like a batarang, right? Like it's like a batarang, and he throws
Except it explodes.
Yeah. He throws it, and it goes, and like it's shot where like it's like meat half off, meat half off, meat as it's coming towards Gary Busey, and then the Gary Busey, like the meat, his bottom torso drops, and like where his bottom part of his body drops, his torso we just don't see.
It's just the reason it was so funny to me is because he didn't have to do that.
He just stepped around.
Look at me! I can throw through meat! And then there's the scene where he spends like 11 hours putting together a Bunsen burner.
He's breaking glass, and like you were like, what's he even doing?
I need to see like every step of this process. Like I thought I was watching a cooking video.
And then he's just cauterizing. He just
cauterizes a wound.
He's making something that cauterizes wounds.
I guess it's supposed to be cool and impressive just because, like, this is how these aliens fix themselves.
And there's the lady who's like, I'm sure there's someone in our bathroom.
And this will probably be in no one else's review of this movie, but I'm fixated on this. There's the flashlight that...
Oh, yes!
That has... And I swear I'm not making this up, because Eric did not look at me like, well, I didn't hear that. Eric also heard this, okay? There is a flashlight where they felt the need to put in a whoosh sound, like somebody, like, throwing a punch, and it just goes... Like when somebody moves it, and never again.
It's when it goes across the screen.
Yeah.
Like so it's like they all have like flashlights. Like
and then it blinks you like looking at a support, right?
And it goes... But then, after that, more lights cross the screen, and they don't have sound effects.
None of them have sound effects. No, this movie's hysterical. I really enjoy. I enjoyed Bill Paxton a lot in this movie.
Oh, Bill Paxton's great. The only person to get killed by an alien predator and Terminator.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a crazy decision.
Which I told you early on in the movie, and you're like, oh, that's really interesting. But then I realized, I'm like, well, that kind of spoils the fact that he dies. But he goes out like a boss. He's got a pretty good death. Well, I don't think we see his death, but like, he's like, come at me, man.
I forget.
So when they're in the train, and for some reason the Predator's on the train.
Oh, yeah.
And his partner gets everybody like to the front train car. He's in the back, and he's like, let's go, man. And then like, later we just see like blood everywhere. Because it didn't go well.
Of course, what's supposed to be cool about this movie is instead of the jungle, we're in the urban jungle now, and
because Gary Busey explains to us that predators are attracted solely to heat and conflict, and it's L.A. and there's a gang war, so why not?
Yeah, and so he's seeing cops and gangsters as the warriors of the planet.
I like the heat thing just because it's dumb. Like, no one walked out of Predator 1 thinking, well, yes, of course, the Predator went to the jungle because it's hot.
Yeah.
He's in the jungle, and it's hot. Like, you could have said this like in the Arctic, and I wouldn't have been like, I was pretty sure he was in that jungle because it was hot.
Why is it so important that it's hot? It's like, that seems really limiting.
It also seems like
all kinds of planets you can't go hunt on.
It also seems like it would make the infrared vision more difficult. Right? Because everything's hot.
Yeah, and also... like, why not... Like, you're wearing this full-body suit. Why don't you just heat it up?
Yeah.
Why does it matter what the temperature's like?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. That's a question. I think there are a lot of things in this movie that are done just because of the time period it's in and edge for the sake of edge, right?
There's a lot of edge for the sake of edge in this movie.
You know, where it's like we got to rip people's heads off, and there's a hilarious head ripping off, by the way, where a guy has his mouth wide open and he's like in this expression that I swear to God you would have to hang on to on purpose. I don't see him holding.
Do you remember the sex scene?
Yeah. Yes, I do not. Yes, I do remember the sex scene, and then the subsequent torture scene. And then... I don't know if you caught it, because it was right at the beginning. The nudity in this is also part of that edge for the sake of it. This is one of those movies that
This is what I miss about the 80s.
Kids were trying to grab on VHS just so they could see the one scene with, like, the tied-up nude chick, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I don't know if you caught it, because when we started the movie, I think... Oh, you were doing it with the dog, so I think you actually missed the opening shot. But there is a really clever opening shot where we start in the jungle... And it's got like the Predator music, which by the way, the first Predator is by Alan Silvestri. You have to talk about Alan Silvestri. But
yes, I do.
But so it opens in the jungle and it's a Predator theme. It's like bum 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 bum. That's not what it sounds like, but it sounds like that. But it's a Predator
war
theme.
drums.
Yeah. It's a Predator theme, and you're like, oh, it's the jungle. Like we're doing this again. And then it pans up. And it's not the jungle. It's just like the forested area right outside of L.A., which is a cool.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah, I like that.
That's not what you expected, and you're afraid you're just going to get the same movie again. It seems like the mission statement of this was...
You did not get the same movie.
The mission statement of this was, don't make the exact same movie. Mission accomplished. Well done. In no way whatsoever did I feel like this was a carbon copy of the first movie.
So Alan Silvestri
was not the appropriate composer at all for this movie.
He did do the first one. I found that out. He did do Predator.
Well, it didn't jump out at me like it did with this.
Well, no, because it's a different score. Because remember that's pre. I think Roger Rabbit. That's pre Back to the Future.
Yeah, well, this was clearly very post all of that. He was laughing all the way to the bank. Okay, because he just slightly tweaked stuff that you heard in Roger Rabbit and Back to the Future. And to be fair, you listen to Roger Rabbit, and a lot of it sounds like the Back to the Future score, but it's not identical. It's just, you can see his mark on it, right? I mean,
it's like John Williams.
It's like that with a lot of it. Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones doesn't sound like Star Wars, but like that clearly came from the same guy.
Yeah, it's different with him though, because more often, like, he's using a lot of the same instrumentation, but he's not using a lot of the like exact beats and melodies like Silvestri's doing here. You get that some with I'm just blanking on names. Rathacon. That composer has that problem.
Yeah, well, and obviously...
And when you get to Amazing Spider-Man, he just reuses some of that, and it's weird.
Obviously Danny Elfman's the big poster child for, like, just don't write new music.
Bum, bum, bum! Yeah, but but with this, there's, he's just blatantly in the Back to the Future 2 score. And some 1, 2, but, like, whenever you're on a roof...
And it never fits the scene.
No, it almost never fits the scene, and it's got that music that we do in both the Libyan scene and the roof scene in 2 when Biff's about to shoot Marty and he jumps into the DeLorean, right? Where you've got the staccato like drum beat, like again sort of like war drums except like very Back to the Future. I was just waiting for someone to yell like, "Ah, the Libyans!" Yeah, it's I was consistently taken out by the score of this movie,
which was difficult because you were sucked in.
Yeah, but he just kept.
And then at the end, there's a Predator spaceship.
But this whole movie is all about like anachronisms and like doing the last thing you would expect. So I guess I like it in that sense. Like, the score doesn't go with this movie, and this is a movie that should have a score that doesn't go with it, I guess.
At the end of the movie, we go into the spaceship. And I always remembered, so there's this Predator who gives Dan Glover this gun, that's like a revolutionary era gun, and I always remembered that as being a more ceremonial thing, like you've earned this. He just kind of tossed it to him. So if you don't know, the original intention when they made this, because this is written by the same people as Predator, Because Predator was going to be for Fox, like the off franchise for Alien. Alien's our real science fiction franchise, and in between those, because those take a while to make, we'll put out a Predator, and people will be satisfied for a little while.
Those are like our popcorn movies.
Yeah. And then Alien.
This is not art. This was never intended to be art.
No. So for those that don't know, the intention for Predator 3 was that it would be set in the Revolutionary War era, and it would have that. We would see how they got that gun. Here's what's dumb about that gun. The gun that now maybe it would make sense in the Predator 3 movie, but the gun that they got from a Revolutionary War dude, it's got a plaque on it that says like 1776. What did they write? Did they write that in human numbers? Like when did the plaque get applied to the gun?
It's bizarre.
It's very strange.
It's really cool shots of the Predator, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some stuff in this movie that looks legitimately really pretty.
They're probably looking at the Dark Horse stuff. I know that this is somewhat inspired by the early Dark Horse comics because they also set in the city. They do that first.
Was it? Okay, I didn't know that.
But I don't think it's like based on. I think they're just taking some inspiration.
Okay, but like you can see it.
Yeah.
They do a good job with some of the visuals with that stuff.
It's a cool looking movie.
Yeah. It doesn't even look like super cheap or anything.
No. Which is unfortunate because I think this movie bombed.
Yeah. They probably lost a lot of money.
But yeah, so Predator 2, everyone knows is a delight.
I'm feeling it. I like that movie. It's not good, but I like it.
Cap turned to me and said, after we finished it, he goes, if that movie that we're seeing tomorrow, because remember we think we're seeing that movie tomorrow, he goes, if that movie we're seeing tomorrow has like emotions or like character arcs, like I'm gonna be disappointed. That's not what I want for a Predator movie.
That's what I'm there for, man. I know it sounds weird to me. You know, I'm also subverting expectations. This
is a movie that successfully subverts expectations.
That's right, yeah. That's not what I want from that. Well, what I said is, I don't want to be bored if they don't do that stuff well. Because if they don't do that stuff well, I'm going to wish they just made a silly, fluffy, nutso Predator movie.
You might like Predators from what I've heard about. I never got around seeing it.
But people said it was boring, that's why I didn't watch it.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to be bored.
That's true.
But
it takes place entirely on Predator Planet.
Really?
Yeah.
I might try it out.
That's what I've been told.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk, Eric, about a couple of requests.
Sure.
So, I hope you don't get bored, but I'm going to talk about a couple of requests. This is a movie that I wish you'd watched with me, because you might have been able to make a little bit more sense out of it. I don't know. I need to watch it again. But I watched Cloud Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie is, of course, kind of... it's got a reputation, and it's really polarizing.
First or last theatrical film. Until if they make another one, but that's their last one.
What do you mean? What, together or?
No, I mean that's the last movie they've made.
Well, what about Jupiter Ascending?
I think that's after it.
No, it's not.
Is it not? Okay.
No, that's later.
Oh, yeah, Jupiter Ascending is the last.
Yeah, that's the last movie.
Okay, I thought that was the last.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry.
This is 2012. Jupiter Ascending is after that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that was their last movie that they made. Okay.
No, but couple of bombs in a row. You can see what happened there. I guess 3 really, if you look at Speed Racer. And then they went to Netflix, and then that show got canceled after 2 seasons. I've heard great things about that, but
I really
that wasn't them alone either.
Yeah.
But so Cloud Atlas was at the time like the most expensive independent film ever made. It was like $130 million and mostly gotten from private sources, and then Warner Brothers distributed it, but didn't do a good enough job advertising it. Like if they had made it, they would have worked harder, of course, to get their money back. But they didn't actually spend a lot of money on this, so they didn't try. And it barely made its money back, if it even did. It was real close. And so super polarizing movie.
I know it as a masterpiece and one of the worst things
that's right.
I've ever seen.
That's exactly right. Ebert gave it 4 stars.
Okay.
A lot of critics gave it a couple of stars or less. Most people, I say you either. I'm on the fence. Most people, I have not made that verdict yet because I want to see it a second time before.
Do you think it is either like absolute trash or a masterpiece?
No.
Do you think a second viewing will put you on either camp?
I don't.
Okay.
I really don't.
Because I'd love it if you were like, it's either the worst thing I've ever seen or life-changing. I'm just not sure.
Well, and a lot of people said that. I think it's ambitious and fascinating, but ultimately flawed. I would probably feel better about it if I hadn't seen other Wachowski things. Speed Racer hurts this because I know they don't know how to pace a movie. I know they don't know how to organize a movie. And so it's sort of like
Revolution.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Man of Steel versus BVS thing, where I'm giving Man of Steel a lot of credit until I see him do a lot of that crap again in BVS with a movie that's not working at all, and I go, okay, fine, you just don't know what you're doing. But I don't want to throw this under the bus because they're trying something interesting and it's really experimental. It just ultimately, at the end of the day, is not winning me over in how it's being organized.
And this is the kind of movies they should have been making the whole time, right? Like, after The Matrix, you make something like this. Like, they're small, experimental filmmakers.
Yeah, I mean, Jupiter Ascending is also like that. But it's just not good. Okay. It's lacking heart. It doesn't emotionally resonate. It's just a bunch of stuff on the screen that happens. I don't care about anybody involved. And it also has massive pacing problems. But it's really cool world building, and it has. I'm just reviewing that now. And it has.
Is The Matrix their only well-paced film?
Yeah, and I have been told, I don't know how true this is, that they were told by Warner Brothers to leave, and someone else makes the last third of that movie. And I don't know how true that is, but that is what I have read.
I can believe that from the sequels.
Yeah. So anyway, but let me talk about this. So, Cloud Atlas is like I said, really ambitious movie based on a super ambitious book. The book is easier to follow from what I've read than this is because it doesn't mix every subplot up together. What the book does is it takes 6 time periods, as I read about it, I've not read the book, but it takes stories that happen in 6 time periods with a person, I think from the next time period, like telling the story of the previous one, I forget exactly, and then it cuts right before a pivotal moment. And then, after they've set up all 6 of those time periods and they've gotten you to what I guess is essentially the third act of those, then they go in backwards order from the last one to the end, and they give you all the endings with the people that were telling the story in the first place.
Okay.
Which sounds a lot more easy to follow than this! Which has an opening sequence that I would have cut completely, because I'm immediately lost. The first 10 minutes of this movie, I think 10 minutes, it's a cold open that gives you scenes from all 6 of these time periods, and I can't follow any of them, and I don't know what I'm looking at. And then, when it I don't know if, I can't remember if it has opening credits or whatever, but when it gets past that, it starts at the 1800s slavery one, and you get to live in that world for a while, and it introduces you to it, and it gives you a timestamp and tells you when you are. And then it does that again, and then it does it again, and it does it with all 6, and that's how the movie should have opened. And then, when it gets to its third act, it just blends all the third acts together.
It just cuts between
constantly. 6 of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was terrible in The Fountain when there was 3 of them.
It's hard to follow. It just is. And I get what they're attempting, and it's interesting. But part of the problem is, and this is why I want to give it a second viewing, I'm not fully understanding how each of these things is connected to the other, or if they even are, and a lot of reviews I've read also couldn't tell, and then a lot of people who like the movie say, yes, but that's not the point. So I'm assuming that there are some connections that just are either only thematic, or just there really aren't connections at all. I guess what I'm saying is, it maybe should have been a straight-up vignette film.
Okay. What are the connections... I didn't read about it. What are the connections in the book? Is it just the storytellers?
I'm not totally sure. I think so. There's a clear connection between 2 of them with specific characters, but a lot of the rest of it is thematic stuff and actors playing multiple characters in different time periods that may or may not be related in any way. And so the guy who plays Agent Smith, he basically plays Agent Smith 3 times in this movie, and every character he plays is just Agent Smith, and one of them is a woman, and it's great.
Does he play a woman?
He plays a woman.
Okay.
And it's great. So you have a a lot of gender bending in this movie.
I cannot imagine his bone structure.
That's why he plays a real big, heavyset woman at a nursing home, and it's great. And then Halle Berry gets to play a man, and there's a lot of gender bending and stuff. And then there are characters even playing other races, which I know offended some people, and the movie got flack for.
Specifically the Chinese ones.
Yeah, they did that. So they did makeup to like change people's eyes and stuff, which people had issue with, and my bigger question with that is just I don't totally know why certain actors playing one character are playing another character. I don't always know what the link is because not everybody is playing the exact same character in every time period. Like Tom Hanks is not always like a great guy. He plays different characters. One character he's kind of an awful person. Another character he's like a really good person. I don't know. So I guess I'll break this down real briefly. Thematically, a lot of the movie seems to be about freedom and slavery and different kinds of slavery and people like taking advantage of people and using them and how this is even kind of a line that's thrown in somewhere, but kind of permeates and is kind of a major deal in the movie where if you don't give someone something, they will not be loyal to you, and that's kind of the whole movie.
Okay.
If you don't throw a dog a bone, he's not going to be loyal to you. That's kind of the idea. And so human nature is to be treated humanely. I guess is a lot of the idea of this movie, and it also echoes a bunch of stuff that was in The Matrix. I think you could compare these all day long.
Does Tom Hanks get up there? He's like, "These machines."
No, he doesn't. But they do. AI stuff in this. They talk about some of the same things. Well, it's not like machines take. I say that it's not machines taking over. There is a. I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's a section with a woman who is artificial, who I thought was a machine. We go to the future twice.
Oh, okay.
I'll talk about that in a minute. I thought she was a machine, but it turns out she's a clone, and all these clones are like forced to do labor of various kinds, and we see like kind of a sex slave ring, and there's a character that kind of tries to mutiny, and then she gets murdered, and then she inspires, or she I say murdered, I guess, but it's sort of like she's got a collar, and they blow the collar up, and her brain explodes, and she's dead, and she inspires this other clone to like lead a revolution, basically. So
these humans.
There's a slavery. Yeah, exactly.
Let them hear you.
It's the opposite. Sure. That's why I'm saying it's about the same things.
Sure.
But it's in reverse. It starts with a slavery story about a guy who about a black slave who's on a boat that he stows away on and tries to get the people on the boat to let him work on the boat, and he's trying to flee slavery. And then there is and then after that is, and I think this one's probably my favorite, it's really interesting, and this is where the Cloud Atlas title comes from, which I'm not completely understanding how it fits with the rest of the movie, but there's this composer character. I'm going to try not to talk about this too long, but I'm reviewing 6 movies, essentially. There's a composer who makes a piece that's like the Cloud Atlas. It's not a symphony, I can't remember what it is, and it is connected. That's the big thing that's connected to the next story, because there's a character in it who actually gets old and is in 1975 in the next one, but I'm pretty sure that's the only character that does that. And I had to read a synopsis before I realized that was the same guy. I missed that. Need to watch this again. Not qualified to talk about this. Somebody requested this with a donation, so I'm talking about it. But it's. And I can't imagine writing about this movie. My head would explode.
You'd write six reviews.
Yeah, I mean, unless more stuff comes to me in connections.
Does this count as a superhero movie?
No. Thank goodness. But it's a science fiction film, and so I could do it on Science Fiction Rewind.
Sure.
And I'm not opposed to doing it. I just think it would be really difficult. I think it would be really hard. But anyway, so I'll try to go through this quick. You've got a composer guy who composes what ends up being this major piece. And he wants to work with this old composer who is one of the greatest of his day, and he ends up being his apprentice, but that guy is a loathsome, horrible man, and doesn't and pretends like he doesn't like anything that his protege is doing, but he actually wants to steal his music and say that it's his. And the main character in that piece is a homosexual, and the older composer wants to out him as a homosexual, and so he holds that over his head, and it gets violent. And then the next bit is a journalism piece, and then suddenly there's a whole thing about this is Halle Berry's big piece. She's also in it later as a character in the future, but she's the main character as a journalist in 75, and all of a sudden we have a bunch of stuff about journalistic ethics and things. I mean, this movie covers the gamut, just everything.
It sounds very Wachowski,
Yeah,
which is interesting
yeah.
because it's an adapted work.
Yeah, I think they just found a thing that spoke to them and looked like something they would make, but then and then there's a thing with that and the piece and then the musical piece from the previous thing, and then after that we go to present day. This one's weird, with a book writer who gets a bad review and kills the reviewer in the middle of a book signing, just throws him out the window. And I guess this connects to like the sort of, it's not journalism, but sort of the ethics of art and stuff from the previous. And there's a lot of stuff about art and what's okay to do with in the service of your art, because the publisher then starts making a ton of money off the book when the guy dies and won't take it off the shelves, and so that's a whole thing. And then we then go to the future, and it's the clones I told you about, and then we go even further into the future, and it's like 24th century, and it's kind of the H.G. Wells thing where it looks like we're kind of post-apocalyptic, and we get to almost like a prehistory place, where there's like a city, which is where Halle Berry's character is like in the futuristic city, but then Tom Hanks lives in like a really what am I trying to say, primitive kind of city, and I can't remember even exactly what happens in that one right off, but I'm having a hard time putting it all together.
Planet of the Apes.
And it's been a while since I watched this, but anyway, yeah. So I don't even feel qualified to talk about it. I want to watch it again. I'm not prepared though to say it's just a bunch of stuff that's happening. I wish I could re-edit it where I could watch all 6 of them separately, so I had a better sense of what they're all doing together. Mm-hmm. The editing thing feels really gimmicky to me.
Okay.
It kind of feels like there's not enough rhyme or reason to why we keep jumping back and forth the way we do. I mean, like, there is, in that I can tell a lot of the time the scenes that are paralleling each other in the sense of, and now we're in the climax of the story, and that kind of thing, mm-hmm. where it's like, yeah, we're in the same place in the story, even though different things are happening, mm-hmm. but I don't know what I'm supposed to take from it. I don't exactly know why we're doing that. It's asking me to do too much at once, and it's like 3 hours long.
Wow.
I mean, it's really long.
Wow.
It's not 6 movies, it's 6 seasons of television. Mm. And, I mean, it is 6 movies, but, yeah, I felt like I ran a marathon when I got finished with this movie, and I don't think it had to feel like that. I really think the Wachowskis, I feel like they should have structured it more like the book. And maybe have somebody doing a little bit of narration. Is it
possible that there's just a better edit of this out there?
That's what I'm wondering. But I also think that the way it's edited is part of why everybody called it ambitious and original, because that, like, the positive reviews, everybody said original. Mm. It does feel like nothing I've ever seen before. Would it still feel like that if you didn't edit it that way? But I kind of think so, because I think it was enough of a surprise just that, we're going farther into the future, Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole thing with, like, I can't remember if they're tattoos or marks, but there's a couple of characters from different time periods that have, like, the same mark on them, and I don't know what that's about. I'm not sure yet. I'm sure there's a bunch of people in the comments that have watched this movie, that like this movie, that will explain it to me. I just need more time with it. Mm. This is not a one-watch movie. And the Wachowskis went on record to say a lot of people that don't like this movie seem to just watch a movie one time and immediately react and don't get that you need more time with it.
Mm.
And I kind of agree with that. It
Yeah,
does seem like
that's
that.
fair.
It does seem like that kind of movie.
I legitimately know people on, like all over the place. Like I know someone who like really genuinely described this film as like life changing.
That's interesting.
And
yeah.
then went and read the book.
The word I was looking for earlier was infamous. I mean, this movie is infamous, and it's also like beloved.
Mm-hmm.
All the same time, it's fascinating. I mean, I totally see why I was asked to. I didn't even mention who suggested this. Did I? Did I bring this up?
I don't think
The
so.
Lone Wolf Jedi of Gotham. Yeah. So thanks, man. I mean, I'm really glad I watched this, and I have every intention of watching it again. I want to spend a little bit of time with it. Ebert is one of the reviewers that agrees that you cannot actually point to all of the connections. He says he watched it once, and it was an amazing experience, and immediately wanted to see it again. And he saw it again, and expected to understand it more, and didn't care, and still wanted to watch it a third time.
Wow.
And said that at no point in this movie was I bored. And I had that too. I mean, I was never bored. I say it's too long, but only because it's so hard. I mean, I'm just trying so hard to keep up with everything.
Mm.
I don't know that the length is a problem if it was presented in a more straightforward way. But again, I'm sure a lot of people that like this movie would say, well, no, that's part of the point. It's got to be edited this way.
Mm. That's interesting.
It's absolutely fascinating. The other movie that I was requested to review this time comes from Connor. Thanks, buddy. Connor asked me to watch Blue Velvet, which is a movie from 1986, from one of Connor's favorite directors.
Oh, so
David
it's one of
Lynch.
his first movies.
It's one of his first movies. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like just shortly after like Elephant Man and the other one.
Yeah, and
Eraserhead.
So, out of my element, I am not qualified to review this movie for a very different reason. I mean, okay, maybe I don't understand this movie entirely, but I'm not familiar with David Lynch's work. I know a lot of people love him. He has a very intriguing and unusual style. He seems to be as much or more about imagery and symbolism as he is about storytelling. He's
known as kind of a surrealist filmmaker.
Yeah, he's surrealist. And I mean, this movie is not entirely surreal. I mean, I can follow the plot. I just don't always entirely know what the movie is saying with the story. Is the thing, and I'm not sure. I guess I'll just get this out of the way. I'm not totally sure if this is supposed to be like a super heightened kind of piece, or if this is how this filmmaker thinks people act and treat each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not totally sure.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect it's the former.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to say without looking at other stuff that he's looked at, or that he's made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we watched the pilot of Twin Peaks once and kind of infamously didn't like it that much. We've not looked at more of it. I've not been compelled to do that. It was not my thing. This wasn't my thing either, but I was really captivated by it. And then I got to the end and I was not sure if I liked it or not. By the way, I will do this for Cloud Atlas. So far, I do feel this is how I feel about Cloud Atlas. I refuse with Blue Velvet.
Okay.
I will not flip my sign on this.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Or rather, I could say I was this way by the middle and inching this way by the end. I guess is how I'll say it.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is disturbing. David Lynch is not afraid to go to scary, haunting places in discussing the darkest parts of regular people's minds and how we look. I say regular people. I mean, I think his bad guy in this has completely lost his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'll stand by that because the other more sensible and not insane people that Dennis Hopper, because of course it's Dennis Hopper, is affecting in this movie.
Dennis Hopper's the bad guy.
He's the bad guy, and he's horrifying. Of course, it's Dennis, and he's horrifying.
Does he walk around with like T-Rex arms?
The other people that he's affecting in this movie are being affected, of course, in horrifying ways, and he's hurting people, and I'll talk about how in a minute. But he's also helping them see a side of themselves that they're not usually allowed to use. And that scares them,
mm-hmm.
and it's unnerving. I mean, I was so sucked in to a lot of this movie. So the basic gist of this is the main guy is I think he's like late high school age. Maybe he's just out of high school. He's a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And he lives with his parents, and the girl that's in this also lives with her parents. So I think they're in high school. But I was hesitating because I just watched this movie one time, and I'm like, somebody's gonna leave comments like, you didn't even watch this movie. But he finds a human ear, and he's like, oh my god, it's a human ear, and he takes it to
Are there any artists around?
the sheriff.
The artists in love.
He takes it to the, well, that's interesting. I didn't think of that whole, yeah. That's in there, isn't it? But anyway, so
I don't know. I didn't watch the movie.
he might be doing something with that whole thing. Anyway, I'm not sure. I feel dumb now. I didn't think of that. No, no, you're fine. He takes this human ear he finds to the sheriff, and he knows. I think it's the sheriff. It's a police officer, and he knows his daughter, and they're friends, but they're not dating. They date later, in a really kind of melodramatic relationship that I don't think ultimately totally works and comes together. But anyway, so he ends up getting like she overhears him talking, her father talking about the ear and evidence in this crime scene and stuff, and so they think that there's this woman that might be involved, and so the main guy goes and investigates himself because it's a mystery and he's just curious and he can't help himself. And he goes to this woman's house and he he pretends to be a bug spray guy, and he wants to he wants to check out her house and learn about her, and he gets the sheriff's daughter involved and convinces her to help him do this. And ultimately what we find out is that this woman had her husband and son kidnapped, and the man who did it, who's Dennis Hopper, keeps coming back and forcing her to have sex with him, and she doesn't know what's happened to her husband and son, and she has to do whatever he says, or he threatens, or he's threatening to kill them. And he has these really horrifying wish fulfillment fantasies with her, and pretends some really super creepy stuff, like he's a baby and she's the mother, and it's messed up. And things I don't even want to talk about on Geekvolution.
That's the theme of this episode.
Yeah, apparently so. So while that's happening, he is in the first time we see Dennis Hopper force himself in and have sex with her. The kid is in the closet watching all this happen, and when he leaves, she finds him in the closet, and what we discover is that she's so messed up, she enjoys a part of this, even knowing that her husband and her son have been kidnapped. And she holds the kid at gunpoint, or knife point, I guess, and forces him to do sexual things on her, and she's just lost it. I mean, and she's not completely crazy. Like by the end, it looks like she might be able to pull herself back together. But it's really disturbing. There's just the dark places that these people they end up allowing themselves to go because of the horrible stuff that this guy does to them. And then eventually, Dennis Hopper finds the kid and thinks that he's been sleeping with this girl that he's decided is his now, that he's kidnapped her family, and he has been doing that, much to later the chagrin of the sheriff's daughter, who ends up dating him even though she was dating this other guy, and it looked like it was going to be a totally platonic relationship the whole way through, but they start to kind of fall for each other, and it feels almost like there's a scene missing, or we skip a beat or something, because there's one scene where her boyfriend catches him in a car in front of her house, and then after that, I guess they're just not dating anymore. And so then the two main characters start getting together, and then she finds out later that he's been sleeping with this disturbed girl, and of course that creates drama, and that's where it starts to kind of lose me. It kind of feels like, and then by the end, There's a gunshot and somebody dies and the things are resolved, and then there's a bunch of weird symbolism, and I don't know what a lot of it means. I'm not totally sure what to do with Blue Velvet on one viewing. She sings Blue Velvet at a nightclub. She wears a blue velvet dress. The movie opens with waving blue velvet curtains. I am not completely sure what to do with it yet. A lot of the symbolism I don't even want to read yet without more time to think about it. There's a whole thing at the end with a bird eating a bug that I'm also not completely sure what to do with. I mean, there's obviously something about, like, larger creatures taking advantage of smaller creatures and stuff, but, like, just, I get it on the most basic level, but I feel like the movie is saying more than I'm picking up on. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I just don't know if it works. Mm-hmm. I'm not totally sure. I was enamored with it, and then, by the end, I couldn't decide if these characters were supposed to be realistic or not, because they aren't. And it's a super serious film about some really messed up ideas that I think needs to take itself more seriously than this movie is. I think. That's my initial read on it.
I mean, everything I've ever...
Weird movie to try to talk about.
Everything I've ever gotten from David Lynch is, I'm like, I think David Lynch just lives in a different world than I do.
Interesting.
I think he just sees people completely differently. I don't know who these people he surrounds himself with are, but I don't know. It's very strange.
I'll say this. I thought the movie was... Because some people think that David Lynch is really pretentious.
Mm.
I thought the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie felt pretty pretentious. Everything in the middle, I didn't.
It's a pretentious sandwich.
Yeah. But then the whole piece may be, if it's not coming together by the end, it kind of felt like, in some ways, like His Clockwork Orange or something. Just, it's about, like, horrible people who have lost their humanity that are, do, like, awful, vicious things to people and are cruel and enjoying it and laughing and cackling while they do it. And, it's got that thing. And just really super symbolic filmmaking.
Which I can't stand.
Yeah.
Personally. As a personal taste.
But what's weird is, like, I didn't know what was going on at the very beginning and the very end. But everything in between was pretty easy to follow.
It was a normal movie.
So strange! Yeah, so I had a tough time with it. And again, I'm sure the folks that like this movie are going to, explain it to me in the comments and stuff. But, and I also have watched plenty of movies one time that I ended up, it clicked the second time.
Mm-hmm. Fight Club, famously.
Famously, yeah. So take that with a grain of salt. But like I said, I'm not willing to fully do the sign flip because I don't think I dislike this movie entirely. I just don't totally know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't totally know what it is. But I'm not glad I watched it.
Sure.
I've spent too much time on that. I just, I'm spinning my wheels,
Yeah.
Couple of really challenging... People like to give me challenging movies on this show. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching, folks. If you would like to request anything for us to review on how we felt about... What's that?
Challenging movies and Predator 2.
Yeah, sure. Well, nobody gave us that.
That's true. Nobody gave you Predator.
Nobody gave me Predator. That's what I'm saying. I mean, if people like to request challenging movies, Eric likes to give me completely not challenging movies that might make me squirm in some way.
I did make you watch Adaptation.
Well, that's true. No, you have given me challenging movies. That's certainly true. And I don't think I've given you a lot of challenging movies, because most of the challenging movies I've seen, Eric has also seen.
I don't know if anything hits like Adaptation, Barton Fink kind of
No, Barton Fink was... We didn't even do a video on it. But
No. Yeah.
We did, but it never got posted.
Yep.
I lost it. It's a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, but if you would... I digress. If you would like to request something for Eric and I to... a movie or a comic or a pilot or TV show, anything like that, you can go to the email address in the description, and you can... contact me, and I'll tell you how you can get us a $20 donation to make that happen. Right now, the slots are filled up for the regular requesters. We have 12 people right now who, on a monthly basis, are requesting something for the show. If you'd like to do it one time, send me an email. And in the meantime, thanks a lot for watching. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Eric and I are going to move on now in the omnibus to Primetime Crisis. We've got a couple of TV shows to talk about, so stick with us, will ya? And we will see you in just a few seconds if you want to continue watching, if you're watching on the playlist. Otherwise, thanks for clicking on this video. Once again, we'll see you again shortly.